Elias Ward had always believed that love was something people chose every day. You woke up, looked at the person beside you, and decided again. It was human that way. Flexible, fragile, honest. That belief stayed with him even after he left Earth. The orbital city of Lyris floated in slow silence beyond the blue glow of a gas giant. It was one of the Galactic Union's proudest achievements, a place where hundreds of species lived and worked together without borders or gravity tying them down. Elias had arrived 5 years ago as a junior xenolinguist, nervous, curious, and very human among beings who measured time in centuries. He never expected to stay. He especially never expected to fall in love. Valeth moved through the shared habitat like a living echo of calm. Her people were tall, slender, with skin that shifted softly between shades of silver and pale blue depending on emotion and light. Where humans used facial expressions, her species communicated with subtle changes in tone, posture, and bioluminescent patterns along the neck and arms. At first, Elias had found it impossible to read her. She had found him fascinating. Humans spoke too much, felt too fast, and changed their minds constantly. To Valeth, it was like watching a star flare and dim again within minutes. Unstable, yes, but beautiful in a way her people were not. Their relationship began slowly. Conversations stretched into shared meals. Shared meals became long walks through observation corridors. Long walks turned into quiet moments where words were no longer needed. Elias thought it was love. Valeth knew it was more. The truth waited patiently, as her species often did. It came on an ordinary cycle, with artificial sunlight washing the habitat in soft gold. Elias had just returned from a union briefing, his mind still full of translation models and upcoming assignments. He was smiling when he entered their shared living space. Valeth was not. She stood near the viewport, looking out at the gas giant's swirling clouds. Her skin held a dull, muted tone. One Elias had learned meant deep, emotional restraint. "Did something happen?" he asked, setting his bag aside. "Yes," she said quietly. And no. That answer alone made his smile fade. She turned toward him, movements precise, controlled. "You were reassigned today," Elias blinked. "How did you?" "The Union database updated before you returned," she replied. "Deep-range linguistic analysis. 5 standard cycles. Possibly more." He let out a slow breath.
"Yeah, I was going to tell you tonight."
Valeth studied his face, her gaze steady and searching. "You accepted." "I didn't really have a choice," he said gently. "It's good work. Important work." "For humans," she said. "Yes." There was a pause. Not uncomfortable, but heavy. Elias felt it press against his chest. "You're upset," he said.
"I am afraid," Valeth corrected. That stopped him.
She stepped closer, close enough that Elias could see the faint light patterns along her neck, shifting into unfamiliar shapes. Her voice remained calm, but something beneath it trembled.
"You believe," she said, "that separation is painful but survivable, isn't it?" Elias asked softly. "For your species," she said.
Often, he frowned. "Valeth, what are you saying?" She inhaled slowly. "A deliberate action. My people do not form temporary bonds." Elias waited. "When we choose a mate," she continued, "it is not symbolic. It is biological, neurological, permanent."
The word echoed in the quiet room.
"Permanent," Elias repeated. "Yes?" A small, uneasy laugh escaped him. "Okay. I mean, humans say that, too, sometimes." Valeth did not respond to the joke. Her skin dimmed further.
"You did not know," she said. That is my fault.
I did not tell you sooner. Elias's heart began to beat faster.
Tell me what? She reached out and placed her hand over his chest, directly above his heart. Her touch was warm, grounding. When I bonded with you, she said, my biology changed. He swallowed. Changed how? Our species releases a cascade of neural markers, she explained.
They synchronize with the chosen partner's presence, their voice,
their patterns, their existence. Elias felt cold. And if the partner leaves? He asked. Vela's eyes softened in a way that hurt to see. Then the bond destabilizes, she said. Sometimes it weakens, sometimes it fractures. And sometimes, he whispered, sometimes it breaks forever. Silence filled the room. Elias pulled his hand back slowly, as if afraid sudden movement might shatter something fragile.
You're saying that if I leave...
I could hurt you. Yes. The word was simple.
Final.
I didn't agree to that, he said, voice tight.
I know,
she replied immediately.
I would never trap you.
That is why I did not tell you. Not at first.
His thoughts raced. Biology.
Permanent bonds. Galactic ethics. None of this had been mentioned in the cultural briefings. Why didn't the Union say anything? He asked. Because my species is rare, Valeth said. And because we rarely choose outsiders. Elias stared at the floor.
But you chose me. Yes. Why?
Her skin shifted, soft, light blooming faintly.
Because you choose every day, she said. And that is something my people do not understand, but admire. He laughed weakly. This is a lot to put on someone. I know. I'm human, he said.
I age fast. I change.
I make mistakes.
So do I, she said, just more slowly. He rubbed his face with both hands. What happens now? Valeth looked back toward the viewport. If you leave for 5 cycles, the bond will enter dormancy. That is dangerous, but survivable. And if it's longer? Elias felt something twist painfully in his chest. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Because I hoped, she said quietly, that it would not matter. That honesty hurt more than anger would have. The next cycle, Elias sat alone in a Union transit corridor, staring at the assignment notice displayed on his tablet. Around him, beings of every shape passed by, each carrying lives and histories he could barely imagine. For the first time since leaving Earth, he felt very small. The Galactic Union believed in balance, in careful planning, in controlled outcomes. Elias had respected that. But now he saw the flaw. The system assumed individuals were replaceable. Valeth was not. Humans, he realized, were not built for permanent bonds enforced by biology, but they were built for something else. Choice. When he returned home, Violet was waiting.
I will not stop you, she said before he could speak. Your people value freedom.
I respect that. He walked toward her slowly. And what do you value? She looked at him. Endurance. He took her hands in his.
I don't know what I'm going to do yet. That is acceptable, she said. But I do know this, Elias continued. No one gets to decide for us without asking.
Her skin brightened slightly, surprised.
The Union doesn't see humans as variables, he said.
They see us as temporary, Valeth tilted her head. Are you not? Elias smiled sadly.
We are. That's the point. Outside, the stars continued their silent drift, uncaring and eternal. Inside, 2 beings from different worlds stood at the edge of a choice that no protocol had prepared for, and neither of them knew yet how much the galaxy would change because a human refused to walk away quietly. The message from the Galactic Union arrived at the start of the next cycle. Elias was still half asleep when the soft chime echoed through the living space. Valeth stirred beside him but did not rise. Her eyes opened slowly, alert in a way humans rarely were in the morning. "The Council," she said before he checked the display.
Elias sighed and sat up. "They don't waste time." The message was formal, carefully neutral.
He was requested, politely but firmly, to attend an ethics consultation regarding an unexpected biological complication related to his upcoming assignment. He read it twice.
"They already know?"
he said.
"Yes," Valeth replied.
My species filed a mandatory disclosure. Mandatory for who? For you, she said gently. And for me. The consultation chamber was bright, open, and designed to feel welcoming. Elias recognized that design choice immediately. Humans use the same trick in courtrooms and offices back on Earth. Comfort makes people agree faster. 3 council representatives waited for him. One was human, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a calm voice. The other, 2 were non-human, their bodies shaped by environments Elias could not survive without technology.
"Thank you for coming, Elias Ward," the human representative said. "Please sit."
He did. "We want to begin by reassuring you," she continued, "that you have done nothing wrong." Elias almost laughed. "Almost. But?" he asked. "But," she said smoothly, "the situation you are involved in presents ethical concerns." One of the non-human representatives spoke next. Its voice translated into clear, emotionless English. "The mate bond of Valeth species is classified as a permanent neurobiological dependency," it said. "Such dependencies raise concerns when formed without full, informed consent." Elias leaned back. "You mean without my consent?" "Yes," the being replied. "And without full disclosure." The human representative nodded.
"We are concerned about potential long-term psychological impact on both parties." "So what are you suggesting?" Elias asked.
The second non-human representative folded its limbs in a gesture that signaled official decision-making. "Immediate separation," it said. "Temporary at first. Monitored."
"Your reassignment will proceed as scheduled."
Elias felt his jaw tighten.
"You're deciding this without her? She has already been consulted,"
the human said gently. Elias's voice sharpened. "And what did she say?" "That she would accept the council's judgment." Of course she would, he thought bitterly. "That doesn't mean it's right," he said. The room fell quiet for a moment. "We understand this is difficult," the human representative said.
"But the Union has a responsibility to prevent biological harm."
"Your presence stabilizes the bond. Your absence may weaken it, but permanent damage is statistically unlikely." "Statistically?" Elias repeated. "Yes. And what happens if you're wrong?" the non-human representative answered. "Then the data will inform future policy." Elias stared at it. "You're talking about her life like it's a research report." "No," the being said. "We are talking about preventing larger systemic risk." Elias stood up slowly. "You didn't ask me what I want," he said. The human representative met his gaze.
"We assumed. That's your mistake," he said. "Humans don't like being assumed." When Elias returned home, Valeth was seated near the viewport again.
She seemed to like that place when thinking about difficult things. "They want separation," he said. "Yes," she replied. "You agreed."
"I agreed to protect you," she said calmly. He stopped a few steps away from her.
"By hurting yourself." Her skin shifted, showing a soft pattern of acceptance. "My people endure for the collective." "That's not an answer," Elias said. She turned to face him. "It is for us." He ran a hand through his hair. "Do you know what they didn't ask me today?" She waited. They didn't ask if I was willing to stay. Bailiff's eyes widened slightly. Just slightly. They assume humans will choose freedom over permanence, he continued. They think we panic at the idea of forever.
Do you not? She asked quietly.
Elias thought about Earth. About how humans built cities knowing they would crumble. About how they loved knowing it could end. About how they still chose to love anyway.
I panic at the idea of not choosing, he said. That night, Elias couldn't sleep.
He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, while Valeth rested beside him, her breathing slow and steady. He could feel something subtle when she was near him now, a quiet awareness, like the room felt fuller. He wondered what it would feel like to be without that. The next cycle, he requested access to Valeth's species records. The Union database responded immediately, granting limited permission. Elias read everything. He learned that Vilas people lived long lives, slow and careful. They valued stability above all else. Mate bonds were rare, chosen after decades of consideration. No recorded case existed of a bond between Valeth's species and a human. No recorded case existed of a human choosing permanence over open-ended freedom. Elias noticed something else. Every recorded bond fracture involved unwilling separation. No one had ever tested what happened when both sides chose to endure. At the next council meeting, Elias came prepared.
You're missing data,
he said calmly, standing before them. The non-human representative tilted its head.
Explain. All your models assume humans will leave, Elias said.
That we will choose reassignment, career, or comfort.
The human representative frowned slightly.
Is that not likely?
It's common, Elias said.
Not guaranteed. What are you suggesting? She asked.
I'm suggesting informed consent, Elias replied.
Real consent. On both sides, the room grew quiet.
You want us to allow the bond to continue, the non-human said. I want you to allow the choice, Elias corrected.
If I stay, it's my risk. If I leave, it's my responsibility. The second non-human representative spoke.
Humans are temporary beings. Yes, Elias agreed. That's why our choices matter more, not less. The human representative looked thoughtful.
You would bind your future to hers, knowing the bond cannot be undone? Yes. And if it harms you, then that's on me, Elias said. Humans take risks.
That's how we survive. Valeth was summoned next cycle. Elias was not allowed in the room. When she returned, her skin was pale, patterns slow and uncertain. They asked me, she said, if I understood the risk. And I said yes. They asked if you understood what staying would cost you. She hesitated. I said,
Humans pay costs differently.
That's true. The council delayed their decision. In that waiting space, something strange began to happen. The bond did not weaken. It changed. Valeth noticed first. The quiet sense of absence she had expected did not arrive. Instead, the bond felt flexible, responsive. Elias felt it too, though he lacked the language to describe it. It was like knowing someone was thinking of you, not in a mystical way, but in a deeply human one. They talked more. About fears, about endings.
About time, I will outlive you. Valeth, said one cycle.
Probably, Elias replied.
Does that frighten you?
Yes, he said honestly, but not enough to walk away now. That answer stayed with her. The galaxy watched quietly as something it had never planned for began to take shape. A human refusing to be temporary. A bond learning to adapt. And a system realizing too late that humanity was never dangerous because of force. It was dangerous because of choice. The delay from the council stretched longer than anyone expected. Cycles passed without a final answer, and that silence carried its own weight. Elias continued his work, but the reassignment date remained fixed on the calendar, a quiet threat counting down in the background. Violeth maintained her duties as well, calm and composed on the surface. But Elias began to notice small changes. She paused longer before speaking. Her skin patterns shifted more often, sometimes without clear cause. And there were moments, brief, unsettling moments, when her attention drifted, as if something had slipped just out of reach. It began subtly. One cycle while they shared a quiet meal, Valeth suddenly went still. Her eyes unfocused, her hand tightening slightly around the edge of the table. "Valeth?" Elias asked. She blinked, returning to herself. "I am present." "You sure?" he asked.
Yes,
She said.
then after a pause, mostly, that answer stayed with him.
Later that cycle, she admitted what she had been trying to manage alone. "The bond is fluctuating," she said. Elias felt his chest tighten. "What does that mean?" "It means," she explained carefully, "that it does not know what to prepare for." "Prepare for what?" "Loss," she said. The words sat between them like a fragile object neither dared to touch. "I thought you said it was stabilizing," Elias said. "It was," she replied. "When you chose to stay. But uncertainty has its own effect." He exhaled slowly. "Because the council hasn't decided." "Yes?" Elias clenched his jaw.
So they're hurting you by waiting. They believe delay is neutral, Bayless said. For my species, waiting is endurance. For humans, Elias said, waiting is stress. The next time Bayleth was summoned to the council chambers, she returned visibly drained. Her movements were slower, her light patterns duller. They asked me to describe, she said quietly, what would happen if the bond broke.
"Did you?" "Yes." "And?" They recorded it. His hands curled into fists. "They're treating this like data. They do not understand why that is painful to you," she said. "Because it's not data to me," Elias replied. "It's you." That night, the bond reacted strongly for the first time. Elias woke suddenly, heart racing, a strange sense of wrongness pulling him from sleep. He sat up, breathing hard, unsure why he felt afraid. Beside him, Violeth stirred. Her skin glowed faintly, erratically, light flickering instead of flowing smoothly. "Valeth," he whispered. She did not respond immediately. When she did, her voice was distant. "The bond lost alignment." Panic rose in his throat.
What do I do? She reached for his hand, gripping it tightly. Stay.
"Speak. About what? Anything," she said. "Your voice anchors me." So he talked. He talked about Earth, about rainstorms and old cities, about music his mother used to play, about how humans built things knowing they would break and repaired them anyway. Gradually, her breathing slowed. The light along her skin steadied. After a long while, she relaxed, still holding his hand. "That should not have worked," she said softly.
But it did, Elias replied. Yes. They reported the incident.
The council's response was immediate. Elias was summoned again, this time to a smaller chamber. The same representatives waited for him, but their calm felt strained. "The bond is destabilizing faster than projected," the non-human representative said. "Because of you," Elias replied without hesitation. The human representative frowned.
"That's not fair." "No," Elias said, "but it's true." They exchanged looks. "We are considering enforced separation for Valeth's safety," the non-human said. Elias felt his stomach drop. "You said you wouldn't do that without consent. Circumstances have changed," it replied. Elias leaned forward.
No, your comfort has changed.
The human representative raised a hand. "Elias, please." This is not personal.
That's the problem, he said. You refuse to see it as personal. You are emotionally compromised, the non-human said.
Yes, Elias agreed. Because I care.
That doesn't make me wrong.
They informed him that a final decision would be reached within 2 cycles. 2 cycles. Elias left the chamber feeling like the floor beneath him was no longer solid. That night, he made a decision. If the system would not listen to emotion, he would speak its language. Instead, he filed a formal petition. It was long, detailed, and careful. He cited union law, interspecies consent statutes, and risk-sharing precedents. He acknowledged every danger. He took responsibility for all outcomes. He signed it with his full name. The final line read simply, "I choose to stay, fully informed, without coercion." When Valeth read it, her light patterns flared softly, then settled into something Elias had never seen before.
What does this mean? She asked. It means, Elias said, that if they force separation now, they violate their own laws. Her voice trembled.
You would bind yourself legally to a bond you do not fully understand. That's very human, he said. The second cycle passed slowly. Valeth's condition stabilized, but only barely. She tired more easily. Her attention drifted when Elias was away for too long. The bond had become sensitive, tuned tightly to presence and intention. The council reconvened. This time, Valeth was allowed to speak freely. "My species believes permanence is safety," she said. "But I have learned something from humans." The chamber listened. "Safety without choice is only comfort," she continued. "And comfort can still break." The non-human representative asked, "Are you prepared to accept permanent alteration?" "Yes," she said.
"I already have." They turned to Elias.
"And you?" the human representative asked. "I'm human," he said. "Everything about my life is temporary. That's why choosing something permanent means more to us, not less." The council retreated to deliberate. Hours passed. Elias sat with Violeth in silence, his hand in hers. The bond hummed quietly now, neither stable nor breaking, waiting. If the council refused, separation would come. If they agreed, the galaxy would face something new. When the message finally arrived, it did not contain approval. It contained concern. The council would allow the bond to continue under observation, but if instability increased, they would intervene. It was not victory, but it was time. As they returned home, Valeth leaned against Elias, a rare gesture of reliance. "I was taught," she said, "that bonds endure because they do not bend." "And humans?" Elias asked. She considered. "Humans endure because they do." Outside, the station lights dimmed as artificial night began. Inside, a bond not meant for humans or her people alone adjusted itself again, learning, adapting, holding on. And somewhere deep within the Union's perfect models, a variable refused to behave as expected. The Council's decision changed everything, even though it sounded small. Observation instead of separation. Time instead of force. For the Union, it was a careful compromise. For Elias and Valeth, it was a fragile space, where something new could exist. At first, nothing dramatic happened. Life continued in familiar rhythms. Elias attended his work shifts. Valeth fulfilled her research duties. They shared meals, quiet conversations, and long moments of silence where no words were needed. But beneath the surface, the bond was changing. Valeth noticed it first. One cycle, Elias was delayed at work by a translation emergency. Normally, even short separations caused a faint sense of tension in her awareness, like a distant pull. This time, the feeling was different, not weaker, smoother. When Elias finally returned, she studied him closely. "You were gone longer than expected," she said. "Yeah," he replied, tired. "Sorry about that." She tilted her head. I did not experience distress. Elias frowned. That's good, right?
Yes, she said slowly, but also unusual. Over the next cycles, the pattern repeated.
The bond no longer reacted only to physical presence. It responded to intent, to reassurance, to shared understanding. When Elias sent her a message explaining where he was, the bond stayed calm. When he was silent without explanation, it tightened slightly, not in panic, but in awareness.
It is learning you, Valeth said one evening. That sounds a little scary, Elias replied.
It should not be possible, she said. The Union scientists noticed too. Their monitoring equipment showed something no model predicted. The bond markers and Valeth's neural scans were no longer fixed patterns. They shifted, adapted, forming new pathways that did not exist in her species' recorded biology. The council requested additional scans. Valeth agreed. Elias sat in the observation room as the results appeared on the shared display. Lines of data moved across the screen, translating complex processes into simple visual markers. The human scientist in the room leaned forward, eyes wide.
It's not degrading, she said. It's redistributing.
One of the non-human observers spoke next. The bond is no longer centralized. What does that mean? Elias asked. It means, the being replied, that the bond no longer depends entirely on proximity. Elias felt a strange mix of relief and awe. Bialith looked thoughtful. It is becoming shared. The scientists exchanged uneasy glances.
That should not happen,
one said.
but it is, Elias replied quietly.
As the cycles passed, the bond continued to adapt. Violeth could now feel Elias's emotional state more clearly, but not in an overwhelming way. It was like background awareness, a gentle signal instead of a command. When he felt anxious, she sensed it. When he was calm, the bond reflected that calm back to her. Elias, for his part, began to notice something new as well. He could not feel the bond the way Valeth did, but he felt steadier, less alone, as if some quiet part of his mind knew that someone else was carrying the weight with him.
"You're changing me,"
he said one night. Bilious light patterns brightened softly. So are you. The council was no longer simply concerned. They were confused. During the next review session, the non-human representative spoke with less certainty than before.
"This adaptation contradicts established biological limits," it said. "That assumes your limits apply to us," Elias replied.
The human representative nodded slowly. Humans form social bonds differently.
"Maybe the mate bond is adjusting to that."
"You are suggesting biology is flexible," the non-human said.
I'm suggesting, Elias said, that you've never tested it with humans. That was the truth the Union struggled with. Their systems were built on predictability, on stable species profiles. Humans did not fit neatly into those categories. They changed environments. They reshaped tools. They adapted emotionally faster than most species adapted biologically. Now they were doing both. Bieleth was asked if the bond still frightened her. She considered the question carefully. No, she said. Not in the way it did before. What do you feel now? The human representative asked.
Valeth looked at Elias before answering.
Balance, she said. That answer unsettled the room. Balance was not expected. Bonds were supposed to bind, not equalize. Outside the council chambers, news spread quietly through the station, not in headlines or announcements, but in conversations, shared curiosity and careful observation. A human and a long-lived species, refusing separation. A bond that bent instead of breaking. Other mixed-species couples began asking questions. If one bond could adapt, why not others? The Union issued no public statement, but internal discussions multiplied. Elias noticed changes in how people looked at him. Some with curiosity, some with concern, some with something close to respect. One cycle, Valeth experienced a sharp wave of disorientation while Elias was asleep. Instead of panic, the bond responded by stabilizing itself, drawing on stored emotional patterns rather than immediate presence. When Elias woke, she told him calmly. It corrected itself, she said. He stared at her.
On its own?
Yes. The scientists confirmed it later. The bond no longer required constant reinforcement. It had learned resilience.
This is unprecedented,
The human scientist said during the debrief.
It's like the bond learned trust.
Elias smiled faintly.
That sounds familiar. The council faced a problem they had not planned for. They could no longer justify intervention.
The bond was not weakening. It was improving. Still, doubt remained. One council member asked Elias directly, "What happens when you age?" Elias did not avoid the question.
I'll change, he said. I'll slow down.
I'll weaken.
And she will not, the non-human said.
No, Elias agreed. She won't. And the bond? The being pressed.
Elias thought for a moment. Then the bond will change again,
He said, like everything else humans are part of. Layla spoke next. My people fear change because it feels like loss. Humans accept loss because they believe change can carry meaning. The room fell silent. That cycle, as they walked through the observation corridor together, Elias stopped and looked out at the stars. Do you ever regret choosing me? He asked quietly. Valeth answered without hesitation. No, even knowing I won't last as long. She placed her hand over his chest, feeling the steady rhythm beneath. You last, she said, just differently. The bond pulsed softly, warm and steady, not demanding, not fragile, alive. Somewhere in the Union's vast archive, a new category was added. Not a warning, not a restriction, a note.
Human-influenced bond behavior requires revised understanding.
It was small, but it was the beginning. The galaxy was learning something humans had always known.
Permanence was not about refusing change, it was about choosing to stay through it.
Time moved forward, as it always did. For humans, time rushed like a river. For Valus people, it flowed like a deep, slow current. For the bond between them, time became something else entirely. Something learned, adjusted, and carried rather than feared. The Council's observation period quietly became permanent. No announcement was made. No declaration of success. The Union simply stopped scheduling separation reviews. The files remained open, but untouched, as if the system itself was waiting to see what would happen next. Elias continued his work on Lyra's station. The deep-range assignment was officially postponed, then reassigned to another linguist. No, one said it out loud, but the message was clear. The Union had decided not to test the limits of a human who had already proven willing to challenge them with patience instead of force. Valeth noticed the change before Elias did. They are watching less, she said one cycle, standing beside him in the observation corridor. Elias followed her gaze toward a familiar sensor node, dark and inactive. Guess we're boring now.
Or accepted, she replied. That idea felt strange to Elias.
Acceptance had always seemed like something humans had to fight for. To see it arrive quietly made him uneasy. As the cycles passed, the bond continued to mature. It no longer reacted sharply to stress or uncertainty. Instead, it responded like a shared rhythm. When Elias felt tired, Ballas sensed it and adjusted her pace. When Ballas grew distant in thought, Elias noticed and grounded her with small human habits. Conversation, humor, shared silence. The bond did not erase difference. It honored it. Union researchers published internal reports filled with careful language and cautious conclusions. They described the bond as adaptive, distributed, and influenced by human cognitive emotional frameworks. What they meant was simple. It worked because both sides chose it. Other species took notice, not immediately, not loudly. But questions began to spread through academic circles, then through social ones. Mixed species partnerships requested counseling instead of restrictions. Some long-held assumptions were quietly re-examined, not overturned, reconsidered. Valeth's people watched closely. An elder from her homeworld requested a private communication session. Valeth accepted, with Elias present by her side. The elder's image shimmered into view, tall and dignified, skin patterns slow and thoughtful. "You have changed," the elder said.
Yes, Valeth replied calmly. You have bound yourself to a short-lived species. Yes. Does the bond still hold? Valeth glanced at Elias, then back at the elder.
"It holds because it bends." The elder was silent for a long time. "That is not how we were taught," the elder finally said.
It is how humans survive, Valeth replied. The elder studied Elias closely.
"And you, human, do you fear what comes after you?" Elias considered the question. "Yes," he said. "But I don't fear what comes before," the elder nodded slowly. When the session ended, Valeth exhaled in a way Elias recognized as relief. "They did not reject it," she said. "That's huge," Elias replied. "They did not understand it," she corrected. "But they did not reject it. For her people, that was progress." Years passed. Elias's aged. At first, the changes were small. A bit more fatigue, a little stiffness after long work cycles. Valeth noticed everything, not with fear, but with attention. The bond adjusted again. It did not try to hold Elias as he was. It supported who he was becoming. The scientists expected strain. They prepared for imbalance. It never came. Instead, the bond softened around Elias, distributing its influence gently, allowing him space to rest, to slow, to be human.
"This should not be possible," one researcher said during a late-stage review.
Elias smiled. "You keep saying that," Valeth added quietly. Perhaps possible was never the right measure. As Elias's hair turned gray, the Union updated its policies. No ceremony marked the change. A single clause was added to the interspecies relations framework. Permanent bonds may be maintained across species when mutual consent, adaptive stability, and shared responsibility are demonstrated. The internal name for the clause was informal. They called it the Ward-Valeth exception. Elias pretended not to notice. One evening, long after his official retirement from active translation work, Elias sat with Valeth near the viewport where it had all begun. The gas giant still swirled in endless motion beyond the glass.
"Do you ever think about how this could have gone?"
Elias asked. "Yes," Valeth replied, "often. And I think about how easily I could have let go," she said. "How easily you could have walked away." He chuckled softly. "I thought about it."
I know, she said. That's the scary part, he admitted. Not the bond, the choice.
Violet's light pattern shifted into something warm and steady. "You chose every day. So did you," he said. As Elias's life approached its natural end, the bond prepared itself. Not to break, but to change one final time. There was sadness, yes, but no panic, no silence. On his last days, Elias rested while Valeth remained beside him, her presence calm and unwavering. The bond did not pull or demand. It held space.
You were right, Elias said quietly, voice thin but steady. About endurance. And you were right, Valeth replied softly. about choice. When Elias passed, the bond did not shatter. It released gently. The union monitored carefully. The expected collapse did not occur. Valeth grieved, but she remained whole, altered, stronger. The bond left an imprint, not a wound, but a memory woven into her being. For the first time in her species' history, a mate bond ended without breaking its bearer. The galaxy took note. Years later, Valeth stood before a gathering of mixed-species delegates, her voice steady as she spoke. "My people once believed losing a mate would destroy us," she said.
Humans taught us something else. She paused. That love does not demand eternity to have meaning.
And that permanence is not measured in time, but in what it changes. In Union archives, Elias Ward was listed as a linguist, but among those who knew the truth, he was remembered differently, as a human who refused to be temporary, as someone who looked at an unbreakable bond and said, not with fear, but with care, "Let's do this right." And the galaxy was better for it.